हाँ शुरू हो गया करो स्टार्ट।
Okay. So, uh, ये पहली इंट्रोडक्टरी क्लास है हमारी लिबर्टेरियन फिलोसफी. Now, firstly, let's start with some motivation. हमें क्यों लिबर्टेरियनिज्म को जानना है, right? So, why do we need libertarianism? Well, first of all, uh, it is a the only correct legal philosophy that exists. So, if you are someone who wants to go and search for something that is true, something that is correct, if you enjoy that sort of thing, this is for you. Second is, it is the only way that you can live and prosper in a society. So, given that you want the best possible future for yourself and your children and grandchildren, whoever, you should support this. So, that is the major motivation that A, it is really, really elegant and beautiful to study, and B, your life kind of depends on it. So, I think you can't have better motivation than that. So, first of all, we go into what libertarianism is. Now, हम online जाते हैं, हम काफी सारे libertarians को देखते हैं, most likely like they're anti-tax, they're anti-war, they're anti-X, Y, and Z, right? And why are they anti all of these things? And जो libertarianism के बीच में लड़ाइयाँ होती हैं, उसका basis क्या है? क्यों लड़ रहे हैं ये लोग? बिना मतलब के तो नहीं लड़ रहे हैं. And so it is essentially a legal theory. What does a legal theory mean? It is a theory on what the law is. Now, what does that mean? Imagine that हम आप आसपास अपने देखते हैं तो हमें कुछ फैक्ट्स पता चलते हैं. जैसे लेट्स टेक दीज हेडफोन ईयरफोन्स, राइट? मैं और मेरा दोस्त सेम टाइम पे दोनों हम ईयरफोन्स नहीं यूज कर सकते, राइट? सो देयर इज दिस फैक्ट कॉल्ड स्कार्सिटी, दैट फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट्स स्कार्स होते हैं. एक टाइम पे एक ही आदमी यूज कर सकता है उनको, एटलीस्ट एक ही रिस्पेक्ट. तो सपोज मेरे पे एक स्टिक है और मैं उसको यूज करना चाहता हूँ लेट्स से आग जलाने के लिए. मेरा दोस्त उसको यूज करना चाहता है उससे कुछ बनाने के लिए. तो हम दोनों ये चीज नहीं कर सकते, एक को हारना पड़ेगा. तो जब भी ऐसा एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आता है जहाँ पे एक ऐसा गुड है, एक ऐसी चीज है जिसके ऊपर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, जिसके ऊपर म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव एक्शन ही पॉसिबल है, दैट इज क्या एक ही, या तो ए के पास जाएगी वो चीज, या तो मेरे पास जाएगी, या उसके पास जाएगी. तब हमारे को जरूरत पड़ती है चीज की जिसको हम बोलते हैं लॉ. लॉ इज अ ब्रांच, स्पेशली लीगल फिलोसफी is a branch of philosophy which deals with conflict resolution on scarce means. Now, let's now analyze. There can be like two broad approaches to law. There can be legal authoritarianism or legal libertarianism. अपन दोनों को एनालाइज करते हैं. सो लीगल अथॉरिटेरियनिज्म होगा कि मैं, मेरे और मेरे दोस्त में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है किस किसके पास जाएगी, और तीसरा आदमी होता है वो बोलता है ओ मैं बताऊंगा तुम्हें किसके पास जाएगी, या फिर नहीं नहीं वो के ही बताएगा किसके पास जाएगी, या वो गवर्नमेंट बताएगी किसके पास जाएगी, या वो पार्लियामेंट बताएगी, वॉट एवर. इट्स कि ओके, this dispute should be resolved by the arbitrary whim of X, Y, and Z, by the arbitrary decision of X, Y, and Z, and there is no reason behind it. It's simply that this authority should resolve this dispute, right? And the other solution is legal libertarianism, जिसमें हम देखते हैं कि ओके, ह्यूमन लाइफ के लिए हमें ह्यूमन एक्शन पॉसिबल, ह्यूमन एक्शन नेसेसरी है. इंसानों को जीने के लिए चीजों को यूज करना पड़ेगा टू क्रिएट थिंग्स, टू बिल्ड थिंग्स. नाउ अगर कोई आदमी आकर एक आदमी को स्टॉप कर रहा है ये करने को, तो वो उसकी एक एंटी लाइफ एक्शन कर रहा है, एंड देयरफॉर वो गलत है. तो जिस जिस आदमी ने लेट्स से स्टिक जमीन पे से उठाई और वो किसी को हर्ट नहीं किया उसने, और वो बस अपने स्टिक से फायर बना रहा है, और दूसरा आदमी उससे स्टिक छीनने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो जो दूसरा आदमी है वो गलत है, राइट? दैट इज, जो पहला आदमी है जिसने कोई अग्रेशन नहीं करा है उसके पास टिक जाना चाहिए. दिस इज द नॉन अग्रेशन प्रिंसिपल, दैट द पर्सन in a conflict who initiated the aggression on that conflict is the one in the wrong. Now, these are the only two types of legal approach is possible. या तो you have to find in the conflict के कौन सही है गलत है, या फिर कोई भी randomly कुछ भी बोलेगा and वो बात बस सच है. Now, of course, legal authoritarianism falls simply on उसकी बात सच क्यों है. There is no reason. It's just arbitrary whim. And legal libertarianism, it is rooted in the facts of the case. It is rooted in the facts of human life, human nature in general. That it is true for these, physical objects that they cannot be used by more than one people, and thus a non-aggression principle वहीं से arise होता है. So we can see that legal libertarianism is true. I would मैं काफी सजेस्ट करूंगा कि यहाँ इस चीज पे काफी क्वेश्चंस पूछो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगे. बट वी आर गोना डू दैट आई थिंक इन द एंड, if possible, yes. And so now someone would say, okay, like this is the broad overview of libertarianism. हमें नॉन एग्रेशन प्रिंसिपल आ गया, अब इसके साथ क्या करना है. हम इससे डिराइव कर सकते हैं, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल ये पेन है. ये पेन मैं करंटली यूज कर रहा हूँ, मैंने इस पेन को लेट से खरीदा या फिर ऑफकोर्स खरीदा है, राइट. नाउ कोई आके इसको ले रहा है तो वो गलत कर रहा है. इस पूरी चीज को बोलने का एक सिंपल तरीका है कि मेरे को ये पेन मेरा है, मेरा इस पेन में एक प्रॉपर्टी राइट है, राइट. दैट्स दैट्स द कॉन्सेप्ट वेयर ओनरशिप एंड प्रॉपर्टी कम्स फ्रॉम. नाउ ओनरशिप, जरूरी ओनरशिप इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम मियर पोजेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये पेन मेरे पास है या ये पेन मेरा है, मैं डिफरेंस, राइट. मैं ये पेन अपने दोस्त को दे सकता हूँ बट पेन फिर भी मेरा होगा. तो ओनरशिप का मतलब है कि मैं इसका यूज डायरेक्ट कर रहा हूँ और मुझे ही करना चाहिए. अगर ये चोर के पेन ले जाता है तब भी वो पेन मेरा है, वो पेन मेरे पास होना चाहिए. चाहिए, दैट इज अ शुड, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि अभी वो है या नहीं. So that's the difference between ownership and possession. And that's why we need the concept of property and ownership to define what actions are correct and incorrect in the realm of physical property. And then we go on to, like that's where you get property rights from. Let's say your own personal liberties, free speech, not to be harmed against, all of those things. That comes from the fact that your body is a physical object of which you yourself are an owner, correct. तो तुम अपनी बॉडी को ओन करते हो, डायरेक्ट करते हो. योर बॉडी इज द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू कम इनटू contact with, that coming into the world, and thus it is the first thing that you own, and from it flows every other ownership. So that's self ownership. And ऐसे ही मतलब तुम कितने ही मतलब you can create from the non aggression principle, uh, by applying it to particular scenarios and scenarios that exist a lot in the world. You can create a lot of let's say legal principles which are different, not different rights but different ways to say the same right that you have, which creates an entire body of legal theory called natural law legal theory, right. And that's the tradition that libertarianism comes from. And उसका थोड़ा अपन हिस्ट्री में जाके देखें तो द फर्स्ट पर्सन, उसने डायरेक्टली लिबर्टेरियनिज्म नहीं दिया, बट उसने फाउंडेशंस दी जिससे एक दिन लिबर्टेरियनिज्म या फिर एनीथिंग यूजफुल इन ह्यूमन नॉलेज कभी बन पाए, which was Aristotle, the father of logic, right. Now, एरिस्टोटेलियन लॉजिक जब दुनिया में आया तब प्रॉपरली हमारी एक्चुअल ह्यूमन नॉलेज शुरू हुई. वरना लाइक छोटी मोटी नॉलेज तो हम कर सकते हैं, मतलब जो हमें रोज दिख रहा है चीजें, राइट, उसको हम कर पाते थे. बट लेट्स से जो हम बिल्ड अप कर पाते हैं, जैसे साइंसेस, ह्यूमैनिटीज में लाइक वैस्ट वैस्ट सीरीज ऑफ डेटा को हम कंपाइल करके थ्योरीज बना पाते हैं. दैट इज थैंक्स टू एरिस्टोटल. And there are parallels of Aristotle in pretty much any civilized human society, because you need logic to progress after a certain period of time in any human society. Then there were people like Thomas Aquinas, John Locke, which gave the first principles of a natural law society, right? That okay, हम लॉजिक को ह्यूमंस का यूज करके हम एक लीगल सिस्टम बना सकते हैं जो लोगों के इनहेरेंट राइट्स को प्रोटेक्ट करेगा. अब most democracies and most governments in the world purport to do this. And to some extent they do this, right? Like अगर तुम्हारे घर पे चोरी होती है तो तुम पुलिस को बोलो that हो सकता है कुछ होश थी इसका, या फिर किसी का मर्डर होता है then हो सकता है कुछ होश थी. Like they prosecute those things, and that is it's coming from this tradition, this long centuries long tradition of natural law legal theory, that the government exists to protect the rights of its citizens, right? And that's where they're coming from. Then in the West, Adam Smith started economics, and uh, he was it's a very flawed version of economics, but he was one of the first to actually create a study of economic theory. Now, why is economics necessary? Technically, libertarianism is not an economic theory, but libertarianism, the proper legal theory, implies Austrianism, the proper economic theory, right? And uh, I think around a century after uh, Adam Smith, the first Austrian economist, Karl Menger, he started the Austrian school. And the Austrian school, if you guys study deeply into it, it is the only school of economics which is able to effectively explain and predict near all economic behavior. I'll not say predict, but let with a reasonable estimate explain economic behavior, and it gives very well grounded, very reasonable explanations for these things. And like when you study it, you can see that okay, this is true. The opposite of this would have been a contradiction. No other way that we can go about in economics than the Austrian economic theory. Then uh, further advancements in libertarian philosophy came from a lot of individualist thinkers. There was Spooner, there was Tucker, Lysander Spooner, and there was Pierre Joseph Proudhon. These are people who started voluntarism and anarchism first, and then there were the Austrian school. They progressed, more a more expansive classical liberalism, especially through economics, than than just legal theory could have. And then there was, Ayn Rand. She gave a complete philosophical overview of not just legal theory, but every topic in philosophy. So, she tried to give or gave answers to everything possible. And Murray Rothbard, he led libertarianism to its proper conclusion of anarcho-capitalism, which is like where human civilization will go if it wishes to go further, right? And of course, further there has been Hans Hermann Hoppe, there has been Stephen Kinsella, and many other figures, which are many other modern figures right now, which are continuing this tradition and constantly honing and refining libertarianism. Now, in uh, in Indian history and philosophy, from my studies, I have also found some schools of thought that are very individualistic and very libertarian. Of course, पहले तो अपन सभी बोलेंगे चाणक्य अर्थशास्त्र, which is like the Indian Adam Smith, right? Take taxation so that you don't even feel it, like a honeybee takes pollen from the flower, of course. So that is, of course, not pure libertarianism, but it is an attempt to formally study economics, which any honest attempt to formally study economics or law will lead a person to libertarianism eventually, and it will include certain libertarian principles. And then there is, you know, uh, there are the Charkavas. I think it was a philosophical tradition, which uh, were very Randian, but with an Indian twist. So they emphasized moral individualism. They emphasized the pursuit of happiness here on earth rather than giving up to the king and to gods and to all of these people. Like, no, no, that's all fine. But like right now, you're here on earth. You should pursue your happiness. It is moral to be an individual and fulfill your own needs and desires within rational limits. And of course, there are like modern day thinkers, like modern day thinkers and actors in Indian history. Dada Bhai Naroji, Rajaraman Roy, uh, Justice Mahadev Govind Rande, who was a free market legal, like he was a judge who espoused legal equality and free market economics and industrialization without state interference as the best form of industrialization for India. These are a lot of these figures are pre independence because धीरे धीरे इंडिपेंडेंस मूवमेंट हमारा क्योंकि दुनिया थोड़ी सोशलिस्ट हो रही थी तो हमारा भी इंडिपेंडेंस मूवमेंट फ्रॉम क्लासिकल लिबरलिज्म से सोशलिज्म पे चला गया अनफॉर्चुनेटली which led to like 70 years of suffering uh, till the 1990s जब थोड़ा सा liberalization हुआ हमारा not 70 years like I think like 50 years right? But like even now we do suffer the consequences of like our chosen socialism and that's okay we can change that. So broadly, when it comes to philosophy, libertarianism is a proper, uh, morally grounded into human nature legal theory that gives you answers to the questions of physical scarcity. It is a guide to your, and it's not simply, for example, when people hear legal theory, they might think that, okay, this is something that should only concern the judges and the jurists, right? Or maybe the lawmakers. No, no, no. Conflicts happen in your life as well, right? Uh, your your friends or your people around you will sometimes take your things without asking you, or like even small things like that. And having these answers with you and they being able to explain these things, it creates a much like it gives you a toolkit to use in the present world, use with other people to best forward your own interests without, creating unnecessary problems for yourself. So, law is not simply what happens in courts. Law is what happens whenever there is a conflict. And if you don't have to go to the courts for it, then that's even better. You know, like if you can solve it, uh, like minor conflicts at least, if you can solve it right where you stand, that's the best thing that's possible. And libertarianism, it gives you a mindset of thinking about both the small problems in the world and global problems or national level problems of okay what are these like let's say geopolitical problems, let's say economic problems, let's say anything that involves scarce goods and anything that involves like the violation of human rights or something, and what even are human rights, like those questions big and small, they can be answered by libertarianism in your life, and it gives you a tremendous amount of uh, let's say intellectual power to counter to understand the world and understand where it must go so that your own prosperity is maximized. And uh, another thing that I would like to say is that uh, like uh, property rights is the base of any rights that you can have. For example, like let's take the example of how do you create, you know, uh, like and not only the base of the rights that you have, it's the base of any economic and material prosperity that you see around you. And you can see this in like both experimental form by the Argentines, like a 30% cut in government spending as well as a lot of regulation cuts and tax cuts led to massive prosperity boom, right? And wherever in the world there will be a better adherence to property rights and a better adherence to respecting the rights of the individual, there in the world you're going to have a far better, more conducive environment for human flourishing and growth. And peace and prosperity from now until the end of time, something along those lines. And so, uh, understand what the non-aggression principle is, understand where it comes from, understand its proper philosophic roots, and understand where you can how you can apply it in your life, and how you can apply it on the political level, on the local level, on the regional level, on the state level, on the national level, or even on the global level. And understand that, okay, that by doing this, you are forwarding your own interests and the interests of those you love and care for. And that is why it is important to study philosophy in general, but particularly libertarian philosophy, because these things affect you every single day. Like money taken out of your wallet through taxation, it affects you. It makes sure that your life is not as good as it could have been. Especially when you compound it over years. I'll give an anecdotal example. I have with me अभी दूसरे रूम में रखा हुआ है, but I have with me a 10 rupee, 10, I have 10 rupees from the year 1910. It is a coin this big of pure silver. And see what 10 rupees is now. Like, what is this? What is this? Like, it's nothing compared to that. And that is simply the result of economic inflation over a century, right? A century and 10 years, right? 100 साल में इतना बड़ा सिल्वर का कॉइन इतना छोटा सा पेपर बन गया जो अब तुम्हारे को लाइक क्या टॉफी भी नहीं मिलेगी उसमें, राइट? टॉफी मिल जाएगी मतलब एक अच्छी चॉकलेट नहीं मिलेगी उसमें तुम्हें, राइट? और पहले लाइक उतने बड़े सिल्वर से क्या कुछ मिल सकता है. And understand that currently human civilization in certain areas, especially in the areas of the humanities, is at a very early point in time. We don't, and that's why we see a lot of, you know, evil things happening around us, because a lot of the vast majority of people do not understand what justice is, what rights are, and so they are willing to tolerate a lot of these evils because, like every evil regime, it propagandizes the people into believing that they are doing the right thing. And if the people have no defense against it, if the people have no coherent philosophy against it, then that propaganda wins by default because there is no one who is fighting against that. And to fight against that, you need truth on your side, right? And that's why it's important. So, uh, this would, I would say, as an introduction and a motivational, you know, uh, what do you say? A motivational start. This is a nice start. Uh, if you guys wish to, let's say, read more about these things, uh, if you want to like go the scenic route, I would suggest like go through, Aristotle to Rothbard, like read everything. It will take like 3 years uh, if you are reading a lot. But if you want to like go a really, really, really concise route, like maybe a month, I think a friend of mine, Liquid Zulu, he has a course on his GitHub. I think you should check that out. It's a really nice course. Uh, and even if you are a seasoned libertarian, like a very concise way, a concise revision of your principles is always a good thing because you can check, okay, if you had any blind spots anywhere. And so I think we have covered broadly why you need libertarianism in your life, why it's necessary. We have covered the philosophical foundations of it, which is the fact that there is scarcity in physical goods and services, of course, and why you need the concept of ownership and property. And from that, you can arise every single right that exists and that should exist for human beings, right? We have also covered what legal libertarianism and legal authoritarianism are, why legal libertarianism is correct, and of course, that means legal authoritarianism is incorrect. Uh, and I think this is a uh, good amount of information. We are around at the 26-minute mark. Let's have around half an hour of questions or something, or if, like whatever amount that is permissible to solidify a lot of these concepts in your head. Because libertarianism, it's not a very like when you get into reading it, especially the history and the philosophy, you can get into a lot of niche areas which take a long time. that broad libertarian principles, they can be covered in like 4 hours properly, and like you'll be better than 99% of people on there in like a 4 hour conversation with someone who knows their stuff. And so I would say the better way you become a better libertarianism is through fighting or I call it fighting, but asking questions with other libertarians who are better than you. Not better than you as people, of course, better than you in the particular subject. So I would say ask as many questions as you can. Do not think that there are stupid questions, and just like fire away so that we understand. And like the questions can be from ranging from your own personal life to like the most global thing that exists right now. So I would say that's it. Correct.
Yeah, so I had a question like, how do we get to this principle of non aggression? How is it
Uh,
derived?
okay. So uh, first of all, we see that there is such a thing as economic scarcity, right? Let's say this is a stick. आई मैं बाहर गया, मैंने ये स्टिक उठाई, अब मेरा दोस्त आता है, उसका नाम लेट्स से क्षितिज है। क्यों है उसका नाम क्षितिज? क्योंकि क्षितिज को आज मेरे को हेल्प करनी थी और वो नहीं आया, मैं उसको गुस्सा हूँ कि मैं उसको क्षितिज बोलता हूँ। आई हैव मेड द इविल पर्सन क्षितिज। सो लेट्स से क्षितिज है, वो आता है और मेरे से ये स्टिक ले लेता है ना? अब यहाँ पे ये एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है। कॉन्फ्लिक्ट क्यों है? क्योंकि दो लोग सेम ही चीज को यूज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और वो चीज सेम टाइम पे यूज नहीं कर सकते वो, है ना? तो अब यहाँ पे हम देखेंगे कि यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन ऑफ कोर्स आएगा, किसको यूज करनी चाहिए ये स्टिक, यू नो? लाइक एक मैं भी क्लेम कर रहा हूँ कि मेरे को स्टिक यूज करनी है, वो भी क्लेम कर रहा है कि उसको स्टिक यूज करनी है। तो कौन सही है यहाँ पे? तो हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि इंसान की जिंदगी के लिए, ह्यूमन लाइफ के लिए एक ह्यूमन एक्शन जरूरी है। ह्यूमन एक्शन के लिए ऑफकोर्स बिना एक्शन के हम मर जाएंगे। ह्यूमन एक्शन के लिए हमें यूज ऑफ फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट्स जरूरी है ना? लाइक अनडिस्टर्ब यूज ऑफ फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट्स जरूरी है, राइट? लेट्स से यू आर ट्राइंग टू राइट समथिंग और मैं बार बार आके आपका पेन छीन लूँ तो आप नहीं लिख पाओगे। या फिर मैं आप कुछ खाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मैं बार बार आके आपके हाथ से वो चीज गिरा दूँ तो आप नहीं खा पाओगे, राइट? तो उसी तरीके से हम ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, दिस इज द फैक्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ, दैट नॉन डिस्टर्ब्ड action with physical objects is a necessity of human life. So we can see that यहाँ पे क्षितिज आकर मेरे को मेरी जिंदगी को जीने में हिंड्रेंस कर रहा है। He's doing something that is against my life. Whereas मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं बस नॉर्मल कर रहा हूँ। मैंने क्षितिज से स्टिक नहीं छीनी, स्टिक मेरे पास पहले से थी। मैंने स्टिक नेचर से ली, नेचर में स्टिक कुछ नहीं करते थे, नेचर में स्टिक किसी की नहीं, राइट? इसे बोलते हैं होम स्टेडिंग प्रिंसिपल, दैट आई टुक समथिंग आउट ऑफ नेचर एंड आई मेड इट माई ओन, and now someone is coming and they're trying to take it away from me. So we can see that this person who's trying to come and take it away from me, they are doing something wrong, and they are इस action को बोलते हैं हम aggression, right? They are initiating a conflict against me, and we can see that aggression is anti-human life, and thus we have, if we want to live a proper human life, we have a non-aggression principle, that in a given conflict, the person who is not aggressing, the person who is, who has not initiated the conflict, is the winner of that conflict, and that is justice. It is just that this person wins. Now, I think that that is where the non-aggression principle comes from. So I would suggest you follow this up if you have more doubts, and if it's clear, you can move. But do follow it up if you have doubts.
Yeah, yeah, I understood it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have a question. Okay, this is a
Go
very
ahead.
basic question. In India,
Hmm.
a lot of people have no idea about libertarianism, but they certainly know what capitalism is. So, if
Hmm.
someone wants to know what is the basic difference between capitalism and libertarianism, what would you say?
Hmm. I think capitalism is the more popular term, but अगर एक properly define करो तो दोनों बहुत similar चीजें हैं. I would say capitalism can be, uh, you know, the society that comes about. when you implement libertarianism, right? So libertarianism is the proper legal theory. It is what the laws should be, so that capitalism can come about. And capitalism is, the capitalism is in effect the aftermath of a proper libertarian legal theory, well implemented. And then you have, all of these production. You have a lot of companies. You have a lot of jobs. You have, everything good that is beautiful and beautiful in capitalism. It comes about only if you have a proper, uh, you know, legal implementation of property rights, and property rights come from the non-aggression principle, as we discussed. So I would say libertarianism is uh, the thing that makes capitalism possible. And to the extent that a country's laws are libertarian or libertarian leaning, the more capitalistic that country will appear to observers. So the more you respect property rights, the more you respect someone's bodily autonomy, individual thinking, free speech, and all of those things, and the less you tax from them, the less you take away from them, extract from them, the more capitalistic, the more the private sector of the country would produce, the better production there will be, the more goods and services will be produced, the better the population will be in terms of wealth created. So the closer a country's legal system is to libertarianism, the closer its society is to proper capitalism. Any follow-ups? Mhm.
No, yeah, I guess that was enough.
Mhm.
In
I would
India,
suggest that.
yeah, yeah,
Go ahead, go ahead. Mhm.
no, whenever people, like a lot of people in India who are capitalist, I guess whenever they think of libertarianism, like how do we convince them that hey, what you believe in as the best way to, like a lot of people believe in capitalism because they think this is the only way to take themselves out of poverty, you know like
Yes.
they believe in the same principle of capitalism, hard work and savings. So how do we convince them that hey, what you believe in and what we believe in as libertarians, it is one and the same? Like how
Yeah.
do we how do we
Uh,
how do we make the transition if you wanted to convince someone that hey,
mhm.
you are a capitalist and I am a libertarian, but you don't know that the best way to achieve what you believe is through what we support.
Uh, so I really like something you said there, which was hard work, saving, and growth from there. Well, all of your hard work and saving would mean nothing if the government was to tomorrow make sure to print $1 trillion tomorrow, 1 trillion rupees tomorrow, and like the dollar to rupee ratio goes down to like 0.0001%, right? Like years and decades of your hard work, they can undo like this. Or if they decide to tax all of your wealth on it, what are you going to do then? Or if, let's say, your rights are not respected and there are like thieves abound, and those thieves come and steal all of your things, what are you going to do then, right? So, for for a proper moral man to live in a capitalist world and get out of poverty and build wealth and properly live in a proper life, he needs libertarian principles to exist in the world. He needs those principles enforced by someone so that he is safe to produce and he doesn't have to look over his shoulder all the time to see if someone is going to come and steal from him. So uh, like the foundation of economic prosperity of both nations and individuals, all the way up and all the way down, rests on uh, proper grounding, like proper ground level enforcement of libertarian legal principles. And the closer the law enforced is to libertarianism, the better off you are in your own progress and in your own, growth as an individual.
Okay, let's say you have created a private group, okay, and
Mhm.
basically you are the admin there, and you want to basically control the way things are being talked. So is it like, are we like breaking any principle of libertarianism here? Because it's a private group. Like, I'm an
Hmm.
admin here. If I want, I can
Okay.
basically throw that person out or even
Yeah.
control what they are doing.
Yes.
So is it against the principle of
Yes.
libertarianism?
No. यहाँ पे let's go into a little bit further detail यहाँ पे. Let's say you are in a private you are a private. Let's say you have a private group and there is someone who is uh, not let's say engaging in the proper discussions or rules that you have set up for the group. Now this is your private property. And private property means that you have the right to exclude this person from your private property, right? You have the right to freely associate with whoever you want. That means अगर कोई मेरे घर में आ रहा है और मेरे को गाली दे रहा है तो of course मुझसे बाहर फेंकूंगा ना. मैं क्या करूंगा? तो हर चीज जो आपकी प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी है वो आपकी है. एंड उस आपकी है का मतलब है आप जो करना चाहो आप उस पर कर सकते हो ना. उसका ये मतलब नहीं है मैं अपने घर पे लाके किसी को मारने लग जाऊंगी जो मेरी प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी है. उसकी बॉडी अभी भी उसकी प्रॉपर्टी है, राइट? मैं उसको अपने घर से निकाल सकता हूँ, मैं उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं कर सकता. समझ रहे हो? तो what you have a right to do is exclude other people from your private property for whatever reason you believe in as per libertarianism. Now of course you should not do it for no reason. Let's say if I become a landlord और मैंने कल एक tenant को बुलाया और आज ही evict कर दिया and assuming कि हमने कोई contract नहीं किया था जिसमें ये बुरी बात like ये illegal है, right? Uh, तो आपको like I'm still like you know being kind of an asshole. Like मैं बुरा आदमी बन रहा हूँ वहाँ पे, but like मैंने legally कुछ गलत नहीं किया है वहाँ पे ये as per libertarian legal theory. तो वहाँ पे आपकी personal morality आती है. Libertarianism answers a very specific moral question कि जब you know जब कोई conflict है तब तुम्हें क्या नहीं करना है. इट डज नॉट आंसर कि तुम्हें और डिफरेंट सिचुएशंस में क्या करना है. वहां पे और मॉरल प्रिंसिपल्स आ सकते हैं. बट दिस इज नॉट टू से कि उन चीजों का एक सही आंसर नहीं है. दिस इज टू से दैट लिबर्टेरियनिज्म उन चीजों को आंसर नहीं करता. फॉर एग्जांपल लाइक एक फिजिक्स का क्वेश्चन बायोलॉजी आंसर नहीं करती. दैट डजंट मीन कि उसका सही आंसर नहीं है. इज जस्ट दैट दैट इज द फील्ड ऑफ पर्सनल मोरालिटी एंड नॉट लीगल मोरालिटी. And legal morality के हिसाब से you are allowed to throw anyone out of your private property for whatever reason you please. And you whether you should or not do that, you should go to personal morality to properly investigate that. But as per the legal morality, there is nothing illegal that is happening there when you're choosing to exclude someone from your own private property.
All right. So when we say it is legal or illegal, so what is the difference? Like, it's part of ethics, but how is it different from
Yeah.
like other subset of morality?
Mhm. See, that's like when we say legal and illegal, right? Especially as libertarians, we are speaking the language of natural law. So it's not simply legal positivism कि गवर्नमेंट ने बोला ये चीज लीगल है इलीगल है, राइट? हम जब लीगल बोल रहे हैं तो हम बोल रहे हैं कि ये चीज करना सही है. और जब हम इलीगल बोल रहे हैं इसका मतलब है ये चीज करना गलत है. नो अब हम मॉरल और इमोरली क्यों नहीं बोल रहे हैं? क्योंकि लीगैलिटी इज अ सबसेट ऑफ मोरालिटी, right? Law is a subset of ethics itself. And what law does is it gives you the answer to, in a given conflict, what things to do are legitimate and what things to do are illegitimate. That is legal or illegal. That's where the words came from. That's where the concept came from, which has been, throughout the centuries taken over by the government, and the meanings have been distorted. But the concept comes from this and can only come from this. That कि इस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में मैं ये आदमी गलत है, ये कुछ इलीगल कर रहा है और मैं सही हूँ, मैं लीगल. What I am doing is legal as per the higher law, the natural law. एक अच्छा एग्जांपल इसका हो सकता है नाजी जर्मनी में. नाजी जर्मनी के बाद जो न्यूरमबर्ग ट्रायल्स हुए थे उसमें जर्मन गवर्नमेंट का आंसर आर्ग्यूमेंट था कि हमारे लॉ के हिसाब से तो जूस को मारना लीगल था. तो जो एलाइज थे like, जो लोगों ने नाजीज को हराया था उन्होंने आर्ग्यूमेंट दिया था कि जर्मन लॉ से भी ऊपर एक हायर मॉरल लॉ है जिसके हिसाब से किसी को भी मारना कभी भी इलीगल है, despite whatever government करे, you know. So that higher law on which law should be based upon, that is natural law. And in that sense, we say that okay, this thing is legal and this thing is illegal in the natural law sense. That no matter whatever the government verdict is, no matter whatever the verdict from anybody is, this should happen and this should not happen. You know, that is the broader philosophical point of legality.
All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you see current Indian politics and you could rate a few topics on the scale of how libertarian they are, like, could you tell me,
Hmm.
some topics which are discussed on our politics which are like totally anti-libertarian and some which are libertarian, so that we could have an
I would
analogy to
say
understand like which, like, even BJP and Congress, they sometimes come out as accidental libertarian, okay, when they discuss something,
yes.
and a lot of times
Mhm.
they say, I guess, they tilt towards saying more anti-libertarian things. If you could tell us, a few libertarian things they have accidentally said, what would that be?
Yes. Well, the 1990s liberalization was certainly a very libertarian thing. Now we can say that the IMF forced that upon us, but whatever, it happened, right? And we're all grateful that it happened. We all have much better futures because of it. And so, you know, I think there is there is always a push from the population to do certain libertarian things. जैसे you know कि अगर कहीं पे क्राइम बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, जैसे थेफ्ट बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रही है, मर्डर्स बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रहे हैं, तो पॉपुलेशन से हमेशा एक पुश होगा कि ओके इन चीजों को कम करो. तो being strong on crime, especially property crime, not all the crime because like they have made a lot of things illegal which shouldn't be illegal, but broadly, punishing crime is something that is quite libertarian. Uh, Broadly, as lower taxes and as low as they can be, and preferably moving towards a more voluntary system of taxation, if that can be the case, and more private involvement in government activities, that's libertarianism. So a lot of privatizations done by the BJP government, and you know uh, a lot of those things that have been happening, they are quite in a libertarian direction, and that's going to lead to a lot of progress and prosperity in India if implemented properly. The farm laws were, from what I know, quite libertarian, but well, the government did not stick by its own principles, which is they don't have any principles, so it's very easy for them to give up. And I would say there are of course things like uh, private sector reservations, which are absolute travesties, which shouldn't happen. Like it should be thought that should be fought tooth and nail, you know. And generally, my thoughts on reservations are that if some kid is getting a reservation, it's not his fault. Let him have it. Like I have no, like ill will towards anyone who is using reservations because they're simply like living in their current system. But I don't think there should be such a thing as reservations because it is just anti-meritocracy. So, and I think that the more we move towards capitalism, the more irrelevant this becomes because private colleges are coming up which are quite good. There is BITS Pilani, there is Triple IT Hyderabad, there is you know, and even a lot of bad colleges such as like you know, like I live in Noida, so there's like like you throw a brick in Greater Noida and you're gonna hit three top colleges, right? Like they're very young right now, so over time, give me a second. I think my internet problem there. Uh, yeah, okay. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Hello.
Maybe we have some. Yeah, he left. We have some network issue, I guess. He'll get back to
I think
us.
he'll rejoin. So I think it was a good start, and he's saying that he'll join in 1 minute.
Okay.
So I think,
Maybe the followers on X can ask some questions, like if they're watching live.
yeah. Let me see if anyone has any live questions. If anyone you have live questions, please put them in the comments.
Tushar should talk about aliens. He's not that Tushar. This is a different Tushar. तुषार यूएफओ दूसरा अकाउंट है.
Yeah, I'm a different one. Where are you reading these comments?
When we were doing this live here on what is the name of this platform, Riverside, I was also spontaneously checking simultaneously how it is buffering on Twitter. On Twitter, the quality is very worse, and like you can't listen to the audio, and the forget about the video, you know. So maybe we should like how was Man doing it? Was he doing it through a laptop or through a phone?
Yeah, I think joining via laptop is a bad idea. Phones or maybe tablets are better.
Yeah, maybe next time if someone is doing this session.
Yeah, the streaming this is streaming quality is 720p.
Okay.
Probably we'll have to get some better cameras for this.
This is also getting recorded, right?
Yeah, this is being recorded.
Yeah, maybe once we get the recording and post and post the recording, maybe the recording would be more clear.
Yeah, actual recording will be in higher quality. It is here mentioned here on Riverside. Next time, I think everyone should the speakers should join with their phones or maybe their tablets, and I too will join with the same, and we'll have some visual prompts going as well, maybe presentation or maybe on a blackboard, so that it is much more engaging.
Or I
Yeah, I
mean, if
thought
even
there
if
would
they're
be some sort of PDFs and stuff. Like it would be a presentation of PDFs and
even if they are
speaker at
joining
the
with
bottom.
laptop, if they can go in a presentation mode and just show on the PPT or whatever, that's also fine, right? Like,
Yeah,
will the quality be reduced or will that be okay?
someone is back.
Okay, I guess we should sum it up.
Yeah, Man is back. Let's have the last question and close the stream. Yes,
Yes. Am I audible?
yes, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, so uh, we were talking about, libertarian and authoritarian things that exist in Indian politics right now. What's happening there? This shouldn't be happening. Am I audible right now?
You're audible, but your the screen isn't.
Mm-hmm. Okay. कोई बात नहीं. So,
Turn off your camera.
Yeah, you can turn off your camera.
uh, so we were talking about
He left.
First time jitters happen all the time.
Starting trouble, I was. We will have to get used to it. Yeah. I guess we should start some sort of like all in podcast. Like, this is a great way of doing it. Whenever there are any topics, I guess you know people like you, people like Ajay. If you guys had a discussion about those topics, a lot of people would know a lot of new things. Which
Yeah, it's like sort of radio show type thing.
yeah, you know the best way to think of it would be like the
Yeah,
all in podcast.
we'll start with that. So
And then we can get arranged, like if there are 4 5 people, we can arrange like better things as well, like mic and stuff, and maybe
yeah,
improve on the quality. It should not be done for everyone, but for a few maybe we can do that.
yeah, let's work on it and
Yeah,
start with
anyways,
it.
but it was still a good starting lecture. A lot of
Yeah, it
doubts were
was
clear.
yeah, the lecture was decent, and we need to just jazz it up to keep it more engaging to the audience. But
Yeah.
still,
Yeah, although 13 people showed as interested, not many joined. So maybe reminder, some sort of, we were late in that, or I don't know.
yeah, I think we'll settle on a time, and I'll remind them 3 or 4 times. I DM'd each one, and those who I didn't DM. I at least mentioned the link in the comments, but still people didn't show up. So, anyways, man, if the internet isn't working, I think we can end it now.
Okay, if it's not working, maybe we can sum it up. Next time whenever we are gonna have any such session, I guess telling the exact time would also be helpful. Like this time we told people that we gonna host this session on Sunday, but we forgot to mention the exact time, and a lot of people knew that session was gonna be on Sunday, but maybe they thought it would be like 8 or 9 p.m.
Yeah,
So Conman has asked, what's the libertarian stance on religion? You will stay secular, right, while giving complete freedom to religious denominations to make their own decisions. Yes, of course, no doubt. What are your views on religion? Should government stay completely out of it, or should government promote a certain type of religion? Will religious activities be left to religious group? We are not going to interfere in any religion, so there is no question of promoting any certain type of religion. Simple.
okay, guys. Money saying that internet problem isn't getting solved, so I think we'll end the stream. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. This was lecture one. We'll have the next lecture next Sunday, and I'll try my best to inform you all and blast it again and again, and so that more people can show up and ask the questions. So I would consider this a good start for the first time, and thank you all. Thanks for coming, and we'll continue to spread the message of liberty. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.